In this video, I will be explaining how Stepford's rail network actually operates, from scheduling and service obligations to the passenger experience and fare structure. Let's get right into it. As you may know, Stepford's railways are used by 5 operators. 4 of these operators are private, while Metro is directly owned by Transport for Stepford. The private operators, Connect, Waterline Express and Airlink, are owned by private companies. Connect is currently owned and operated by the Stepford Transport Group, similar to Transport UK IRL. Waterline is operated by First Group. Express is operated by Arriva, which is a subsidiary of Deutsche Bahn, and Airlink is operated by Stepford Transport Group, just like Connect. These franchises have changed operators several times, but they are obligated to always keep the branding of the operator, so the liveries and the looks of the trains never change, but the people who operate them do. The most recent change was in 2015, when First Group took over Waterline from Abellio. Abellio would later merge into the Stepford Transport Group, still keeping some of its staff on Stepford's railway, primarily in the Leighton area now. They earn their money through fares, and they use that money for maintenance, buying additional trains, franchise fees, track access fees, paying out shareholders and staff, and that's about it. So, who actually regulates these operators? Who ensures that even rural stations like Woodhead Lane get a service? That is the job of National Rail and Transport for Stepford. National Rail and Transport for Stepford are both part of Stepford's government. They are owned by the government, and their job is to ensure that the railway runs as expected. They award franchises, train contracts, collect payments for franchises, manage some stations, manage scheduling, and so on. National Rail and Transport for Stepford are also in charge of scrutinising and potentially stripping franchises. However, they can also bail out franchises in times of financial crisis. This happened in 2020 when the Waterline division of First Group was about to go bankrupt due to lack of passengers. National Rail and Transport for Stepford stepped in and gave First Group a bailout to carry on service. This bailout loan was fully paid off by First Group in late 2025, a couple of months ago. Metro is the sole exception to this entire system. It is directly owned by Transport for Stepford and partly by the Stepford City Council. As such, it has no franchise payments, no private contracting, and so on. The government is directly in charge of coordinating Metro's operations, and therefore Metro also doesn't fall into any specific service obligations. It's also much easier to extend Metro than the other operators, as the government controls both the construction of the railway and the operator, whereas with the franchises, it takes some cooperation with the private companies to get an extension. National Rail and Transport for Stepford are also in charge of setting out service obligations for the private operators. This includes various things like minimum service per station, maximum cancellation rate, minimum capacity on the line, specific services to rural stops that must be completed, and so on. There are also some lines such as R020 that are exclusively scheduled and maintained by National Rail and Transport for Stepford. This means that the private operator must complete every single timetable on that line by law, and it's also why you don't see any additional services running on the Whitefield line. It's because almost all of them are mandated thanks to R020. Private operators are given some wiggle room on scheduling, however the vast majority of services are mandated by National Rail and Transport for Stepford. The government is also in charge of fare pricing and structuring. However, any changes here must be approved by the private operators, resulting in some negotiations always taking place and change not really being swift. Speaking of fares, how do they work? There are currently 4 fare zones in Stepford, those being the Stepford City Zone, Benton Zone, Airport Zone and National Rail Zone. The Stepford City Zone applies to every Metro service station except for Benton, Port Benton, Morganstown Docks, Morganstown and the Waterline platforms at Whitney Green. This zone also includes Southgate Tramlink and Stepford bus services. A one-way ticket to anywhere in the network costs £2, a 1-hour time ticket costs £5, a day ticket costs £10, a week ticket costs £30, and it's a whopping £100 for a monthly ticket. You can pay in this zone using the Stepford City Transport Card, which is valid as long as you have a valid ticket on it, which you can buy at any ticket machine and validate when first tapping it into the barriers. Despite the name card, it's actually a paper ticket. It can be recharged by inserting the paper into the ticket machine, or you can just buy a new one every time from the ticket machine. Please note that this card does not work outside of the Stepford City zone. Therefore, using this ticket at Benton won't work, and will result in you being stuck and having to contact staff. Transport for Stepford is trying to make both the Stepford City Transport Card and Waterline Travel Card work in Benton. However, First Group is holding back negotiations. For now, staff at Benton will let you out if you have a Stepford City Zone card, but you cannot board a train with it. It's very confusing. Speaking of First Group, the next zone is the Benton Zone. This zone uses the Waterline Travel Card, and it's pretty much the same structure as the Stepford City Zone, except it applies to every station served by Waterline, as well as on buses in the Benton Zone. The Airport Zone is special because it uses regular National Railway tickets, with one specific exception, the free Terminal Shuttle. The Terminal Shuttle is free between Airport Parkway and the terminals. You still need to buy a ticket and validate it, but it costs £0 and you can buy it without any credit card information. Online purchases are not available for this ticket. It allows you to travel between any of the airport stations free of charge, on any train, although the trains that aren't the 345 will have ticket inspectors, so beware. There have been negotiations to extend these fare zones to Morganstown and Hampton Hargate, although these changes are being held back by the Stepford Transport Group, because they would lose a fair bit of money on Airlink and Connect tickets coming in from Morganstown and Hampton Hargate. Also, please be aware, if you are trying to use the free Terminal Pass to get to Hampton Hargate or Morganstown instead of the regular National Rail ticket from Airport Parkway to those stations, you will not be let out at the stations and you'll have to contact station staff, and they'll probably fine you £100 for not having a ticket. Our final zone is the National Rail Zone. This zone applies literally everywhere else in the network and is frankly quite simple. You buy a ticket at the station or online for a specific train at a specific time in a specific class. It's valid only on that service, although it can also be allowed onto different services in times of disruption. This ticket applies to all Connect, Express and Airlink trains. Fair warning, in all of the dedicated zones, you'll still need a National Rail ticket to access these operators. Failure to have a ticket will either leave you fined by the ticket inspector or locked out at certain stations, depending on the station. For example, West Wyvern, which has ticket barriers, will lock you out, but a simpler station like Woodhead Lane and Starryloch will let you out unless you have been fined on the train by a ticket inspector. There have been negotiations to introduce a fifth zone between Rocket Parade, Leighton West, Edgemead and Rayleigh Bay, named the Leighton Zone. However, these plans have been held back by the Stepford Transport Group and Arriva, citing a lot of revenue loss, and also the complexity in making this fare zone. The Leighton area's buses have, however, already been unified under one fare zone, making the potential future introduction of a fifth zone easy if all of the operators can agree on it. What does this all mean for the passengers? I think it's best to demonstrate this on 3 consecutive example journeys from City Hospital to Eden Quay, from Eden Quay to Terminal 3, and from Terminal 3 to Starryloch. We start at City Hospital by buying a one-way metro ticket to Benton. We are just buying the one-way Stepford City Zone card, not an actual National Rail ticket. We take an R006 train to Benton and buy a 1-hour pass on Waterline. We take R010 to Eden Quay. The first stage of our journey is now complete. We now take an R014, R017 or R018 train to Airport West, walk to Airport Parkway, buy the free shuttle ticket and get the shuttle to Terminal 3. For the third stage of our journey, we need 2 National Rail tickets, one from Terminal 3 to Leighton Stepford Road and one from Leighton Stepford Road to Starryloch. After buying these tickets, we board our Airlink train to Leighton Stepford Road, pray it doesn't get delayed, and then board our Connect train to Starryloch. Our journey ends when we disembark the train at Starryloch station. The system is relatively intuitive to use, with the exception of Benton Station. It's relatively cheap currently, although prices do change every couple of months. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to like, subscribe and join the channel like these lovely people on screen for additional perks. You can also join the Discord server via the link in the description. Again, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.